Hello, what is up my brothers and sisters? This is Enemy Stand User here today and welcome to chapter 247 of Jujutsu Kaisen. And this was a very difficult chapter to witness as things are not looking so good for Higuruma, but we continue to have hope in Yuji and the rest of the sorcerers being able to fulfill their role and ultimately defeat Ryomen's Sukuna, hopefully. So let's dive straight into this chapter and discuss what happens next. Chapter 247 opens with Higuruma's face-off against Sukuna, and we get some very impressive Higuruma feats praised by Sukuna himself. From Higuruma's activation of domain amplification, as well as the starting and stopping of the amplification ability, which was impressive since a sorcerer cannot use amplification along with their innate curse technique at the same time, like how Sukuna had to stop and pause Makora's Ten Shadows adaptation when using his own amplification. And it's the same here with Higuruma. He had to briefly halt the use of his sword technique while using domain amplification, then quickly activate the technique again. So now Sukuna can see Higuruma can restart his curse technique right after domain amplification like a switch, so he can manipulate curse techniques at the same level as Sukuna and control it. That is utterly godlike, and it's more impressive that Higuruma has been doing this for less than 2 months as a sorcerer and already reached this level. This really fascinates Sukuna and catches his attention as he acknowledges Higuruma's name and begins to chant and empower himself with incantations. Yuji is also here, and it seems like the two of them are the only ones left to really fight. Higuruma then launches towards Sukuna, all the while the environment is getting decimated by Sukuna's slashes. Yet just as this rebel distracts Higuruma, Yuji gets between them and I guess to try to stall Sukuna, yet Sukuna swiftly grabs Yuji and proceeds to hit him with a point-blank cleave, which slashes Yuji's midsection in a sort of grid. Sukuna leaves Yuji fatally wounded and casts him aside because ultimately a brat like Yuji holds no interest to Sukuna. He's just dull and boring. And honestly, it's not really surprising a character like Yuji tries to fistfight Sukuna, who can literally cut him to shreds without lifting barely a finger, and he ended up like that. Fighting Sukuna like this is basically like suicide, and I guess they're going to continue to try and fight him like this because what really else can they do? They only lasted this long against him because of Sukuna's whim and what he wants to see and how they grow. Higuruma tries to stab Sukuna with his sword, however, of course Sukuna dodges every attack, punches him in the face, dodges and blitz behind him, and dodges again and absolutely styles on Higuruma by chanting the incantation for the world slash and proceeds to use the world dividing dismantle to take Higuruma's right arm. This is one of the more interesting moments in the chapter as Sukuna wants to see what level of sorcerer that Higuruma has become, telling him to show me that you can heal. He wants Higuruma to perform reverse curse technique, and it's very impactful how dedicated Higuruma has invested himself. Now he's willing to die for his role, yet these things still hurt him all the same. And Sukuna cuts off the other arm, threatening that the next time he's going to cut off his head, and if Higuruma cannot perform reverse curse technique, then he will die right here and now. So eventually Higuruma steals his resolve, and now he is about to grow once more as a sorcerer. Yet quickly a piercing blood strikes Sukuna and distracts him while giving Higuruma time to actually heal. The way it's presented makes it hard to say who actually performed that piercing blood attack. It makes a lot of sense for the attack to be performed by Yuji, since Kamo and Chozo are the ones teaching Yuji to use blood manipulation. Yet Sukuna mentioned that this was the older brother's power, and he's impressed how stubborn they are, and of course he injured both Chozo and Yuji. But regardless, Higuruma uses reverse curse technique and finally pierces Sukuna with the executioner sword. So now at this point Higuruma has a very potent curse technique. He has a domain expansion, he's shown domain amplification, and he even has a curse technique manipulation and cursed energy control on the level of Sukuna. And now he even has reverse curse technique, and he learned all of this virtually on the spot after seeing it one time. They really do not make sorcerers like Higuruma. He has skills that even some top tiers like Kashimo or Yorozu haven't even shown, and at least he showed these things before his ultimate demise. However, back to the chapter, it turns out Sukuna cut off his hand before the sword actually hit and landed. And it appears once Higuruma realized this, Sukuna straight up just kills him. And we get a sort of short flashback as Kusakabe mentions, curses get stronger after death, and Higuruma says that it's befitting of himself as well. So after his death, Higuruma's curse technique may grow stronger. And now we see as Higuruma is basically being ripped in half is what it looks like. I hope I'm wrong, but he does toss his executioner's sword to Yuji just in time, who suddenly appears, and this actually reminds him of Nanami's death as he leaves his final words to leave it to you. And Higuruma finally looks to him in the eyes one last time, and Yuji finally makes his resolve as a Jujutsu sorcerer as he is about to strike down Sukuna with the last remnant of Higuruma's blade. This curse has been handed down to him, and we'll have to see next week if Yuji or Higuruma's sword will do anything to Sukuna. Logically, the sword has every reason to kill Sukuna right here, since without exception, anyone cut by the executioner's sword will die, and the sword can only be cut by the convicted Sukuna. And Sukuna cut off his own hand to avoid the sword, so it really has every reason to kill him. Yet I know, and most of you guys probably already know, but that's just too easy. Sukuna will make his way out of this in some type of way, as Sukuna's death will pretty much start to mark the end of Jujutsu Kaisen, and we still have a good amount of things left to do throughout the series. Next chapter, I really imagine that we'd probably go more into a different POV, to either Yuta and Maki or to Hikari versus Uraume. And I'm really a fan of letting these fights kind of build up as we're entering this final arc. However, make sure you guys comment below what you guys think about this chapter, what you think may happen next. Things are getting really hectic so far for the cast, and we already may have some substantial loss in characters, whether they are injured or just dead. So we're gonna need the ones who are left to really prove themselves to be able to beat or handle Sukuna to just end this. However, that's it for this one. Like and subscribe if you guys like this type of content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.